So for today's video, I'm going to answer the four questions. So here is the first question. So number one. So how English arrived in Bangladesh, discussed based on the three phases presented in the material. So, the history of English in Bangladesh can be divided into three main phases of the political history of the nation. So, reflecting the changing rule and status of English, the scope of learning English was widened in the next century with the establishment of English schools, initially for European children and later for locals, and the aim of spreading Western knowledge, English, and English literature. So, when the breakup of Pakistan and the emergence of Bangladesh in 1971 brought an opportunity for Bangladeshis to reflect on the language question from a nationalistic point of view. So in the new nation, English became a de facto foreign language with a negligible role in internal communication in a largely monolingual country. So as a symbol of national identity, Bangla replaced English in all important domains, including higher education in the next few years. So question number two. What is the status of English in terms of education and language policies in Bangladesh? So the current status of English in Bangladesh is not a simple task. This is mainly due to the absence of what is called status planning for English. There is no policy articulation about English that can be applied to the whole society, although language questions have special significance in the social, cultural, and political life of the nation. So language did not seem to have received commensurate policy investment. For example, the National Education Policy or the Ministry of Education in 2010. So includes chapter on all conceivable forms of education including adult, non-formal education, women's education, religious and moral education, physical education, and legal education. But no chapter is dedicated to languages or language education. So the absence of explicit policies for languages other than Bangla is notable. So the status of Bangla is determined unambiguously by policy which may help understand the place of English. For example, the Bangla Language Introduction Act 1987. So obliges courts, government offices, semi-government and autonomous institutions except in foreign relations to use Bangla. So next question, number three. Describe the functions of English in terms of education, employment, media, and entertainment, politics, NGOs, creative writing, electronic communication. So function of English in terms of education. So education is a key domain where English has an overarching presence both as a language for learning and as a language in which students are expected to develop functional proficiency. However, given the inefficient cultivation of English in education, school English achievement is yet to have a significant impact on society. So the curricular status of English varies across the streams of education. So the functions of English in terms of employment. So the domain of employment does not allow for an easy or reliable assessment of the rule of English. So while jobs in certain sectors may require high levels of English, proficiency and other communication skills, Bangla may suffice in many others. So in general, English plays a more dominant role in the private sector than in the public sector. Within the former, education, ready-made garment or RMG, information technology or IT and banking sectors demand functional English proficiency from employees. So, function of English in terms of media and entertainment. So, the role of English in media and entertainment is modest, as this sector uses mainly Bangla to cater to its domestic audience as well as the Bangladeshi diaspora around the globe. So Hindi also has a significant role in entertainment, as Hindi music is quite common in public places. So Indian Bollywood movies have been encroaching upon the Bangladeshi entertainment. So market steadily at the expenses of the local film industry, which struggles to survive. So Hollywood films and Western music are a matter of private consumption among the privileged households. So, functions of English in terms of politics. So, Bangla is the language of politics and political expression in Bangladesh. So, using a language other than Bangla in this field can be considered politically incorrect with serious repercussions. So, the non-government organization, English probably has the strongest presence in non-government organization or the NGO. So, the NGO Affairs Bureau, the government department for overseeing NGO operation in Bangladesh. So, ang NGO operation Bangladesh kay listed over 2,600 such organizations as of November 2018. So typically NGOs work in the areas of poverty elevation, health sanitation, microfinance, education, women's empowerment, human rights, environment, and minority issues. So they are founded both locally and from overseas. So function of English in terms of creative writing. So, although creative writing in English in the region dates back to the early 19th century, so Bangladeshi writing in English or BWE has yet to receive notable recognition. So, BWE in this respect lags behind its Indian, Pakistani, and Sri Lankan counterparts which can claim literary history books and receive considerable critical addition. So, however, moving beyond the current territory of Bangladesh historically, so British Bengal was the provenance of BWE, which is the oldest English language literary tradition in the subcontinent. So, the function of English in terms of electronic communication. So, email communication in Bangladesh is characterized by the use of English. However, in the public sector, email is not the official form of communication, even though it probably constitutes the dominant form of communication in the private sector. So, based on the extent, nature, type, and purpose of English used in the garment industry, so it proposes the concept of garment speak, which accommodates all varieties of Englishes, including Received Standard or RS. So, for the question number 4, what is code mixing, code switching, and technology mediated innovations in Bangladesh? So, code mixing is most obvious in the nomenclature of major political parties in Bangladesh. So, code mixing and linguistic transgressions are also found in the urban linguistic landscapes, particularly in signs and billboards. So, other technology mediated innovations include web addresses of businesses, media, and social and cultural institutions, which also mix English and Bangla.